break last year. I'm not sure exactly what it was. Something happened. Maybe we forgot. But 5th Washington Conference, we've talked about media war, we've talked about Washington's addiction to war, and now something very different has happened. All this war that we've talked about overseas has come home. And now we're here this year to talk about the war on us. And that's what we're facing, and it's probably the most serious thing that most of us will face in our entire lives. But before we go into that, I do want to say a few thank yous and introductions. I first of all want to deeply thank the Mango Foundation for Freedom and Creativity. This is the major sponsor of this event. It's a wonderful group of people that are dedicated to freedom and creativity, so we thank them very much. We also want to thank our major sponsor, Jennifer January, who's also helped us put this conference together. As you can guess, there are a lot of moving parts and there are a lot of expenses, and that's why we also want to thank our Gold Host Committee members. They are people that come up early on, and they help support the conference, and in exchange they participate in cocktail receptions and after-event receptions. So anyone who's interested in that next time, please get in touch. The silver members also step up and help us. Unfortunately, especially in these days, the cost of a ticket doesn't pay for the cost of the event. So we are deeply grateful to people who step up to the host committee and provides extra money for us to get started. I want to thank also the speakers who are here on their own time, lending their own expertise to help educate and inspire us. They're giving freely of their time, and we deeply appreciate that. I also would like to thank my family, who has always helped me with these conferences. Some people have said, what are you using your family for, But, I've always taken inspiration from Dr. Paul, and I remember in the campaigns how wonderful it was and how inspiring it was for people to see him surrounded by his family. And that's always been an inspiration for me, so I thank them very much. And I want to thank especially all of you for coming out in adverse circumstances, difficult travel, to come out and be with us. This is the biggest, by far, Ron Paul Institute conference ever. So give yourselves a round of applause. The war on us. We're in the midst of a global totalitarian takeover that has never been seen in history, I would suggest. Technology has, of course, connected all of us and made the world a global village, but it has also given the tools to totalitarians in our midst to control every aspect of our lives. We are looking at a new kind of totalitarianism, and I'm not using hyperbole, and I know all of you in this room understand that this is not hyperbolic. And if you look at the totalitarianisms of the 20th century, they were different than ours today. They were primarily concerned with control of the mind. If you believe in the superiority of a certain race, you will enjoy a 1,000-year Reich. If you believe in the science of Marxism-Leninism, we will build a new Soviet man, a new Soviet society. They wanted your mind, and if you disagreed, you may end up in a gulag. This is different. This new totalitarianism seeks control of our minds, but also our bodies and indeed our very souls. That's what it is seeking. It is a religion with its own eschatology, its own customs and rituals, and that is what is overtaking us. If you resist the takeover of your very body, which is what they're trying to do, if you resist that, they have the tools now to erase you from society. Literally, figuratively, and to send you, and to deny every of your normal human rights. Now here's the big problem. We have no allies. We have the groups on the left and on the right that we might have looked to in the past to stand up for us, to stand up for our civil liberties. They've abandoned the fight. They've joined the other side. That's where all the goodies are. They've joined that side. And I'll give you a couple of examples. The American Civil Liberties Union, which when we were on Capitol Hill, we worked with very often. We found them allies on critical civil liberties issues. They are on the other side. And here's a tweet they sent out the other day. Far from compromising them, vaccine mandates actually further civil liberties. That's the ACLU. They also had an op-ed where they wrote about forced vaccine mandates. They wrote, quote, "It's a justifiable intrusion on autonomy and bodily integrity." Justifiable. What it is when they stick a needle in you against your will, it's a form of rape. That's what it is. It's not a justifiable intrusion. And this issue is so fundamental to who we are that when the ACLU says this, they are the enemy now. I hate to say it, they are the enemy. But we have other enemies. The Cato Institute is now an enemy. Robert Levy, the chairman of the Cato Institute, had an op-ed in The Hill that could have been written for one of the talking heads on MSNBC. He set up a series of straw man arguments against vaccine mandates and made the reasonable conclusion that it's no problem. The article was called "Vaccine Mandates, a Liberty-Minded Perspective." First, you have to kill language, and that's what they're doing. And here are basically his arguments. The vaccine is absolutely safe, according to the CDC. So here we have the great libertarian Cato Institute citing the CDC, the most politicized organization perhaps these days in the country. Well, they said it's fine. What's wrong with you? Well, also the problem is hospitals are overwhelmed. They can't treat others. We know that's bogus. There are cases where hospitals are stressed. But if that's the case, then why are they telling nurses you can't work unless you take a shot in your arm? That's the reason why they're having problems staffing up the hospitals, because many nurses, many healthcare professionals, and we talk about this on the Ron Paul Liber Report, they don't want to do this, and so the hospitals are having problems, and that's the reason. Breakthrough problems, problems with breakthrough infections. Here's Levy, Cato Institute chairman. The only reason we're seeing so many breakthrough infections is because so many people are vaccinated. Okay, what? Isn't that the reason you get vaccinated, so you don't get it? Well, that's actually not the case, because the head of the CDC, Walensky, said, well, these vaccines no longer protect against infection. So they no longer protect against transmission either, is what she said. And guess what? After 8 months, no, 6 months, no, 5 months now, they wear off. So we got to put some more stuff in you. So Levy again. He also says, this is a straw man. Don't want the facts? You want to look for other remedies? There aren't any. Masks? You want to wear a mask forever? This is what he said. That's the only other remedy. He said, and this is the clincher, this is toward the end, quote, perhaps natural immunity from contracting the disease is stronger than vaccine-induced immunity, but most studies say otherwise. So the entire history of the human race is all of a sudden negated this year. It doesn't exist. And so here's the conclusion of the Cato Institute. We are in the midst of a health emergency, which means that suitably modified, narrowly tailored, limited time rules may be justified. It's no problem. What we don't have at all is the media. The media is completely in the camp of the enemies. Completely in the camp. And when we try to create our own media, what happens to us? We're censored, we're disappeared. We have the plug pulled. We can't talk to each other, literally. And that's the first thing they said, right, when they promised us only 2 weeks. Stay home. Don't talk to people. Don't go to church. Well, why is that? Because that's where people gather and compare notes. Hey, do you know anyone sick? No, I don't. You know? That's what they wanted to end. Successfully, they ended it. And they're in the process of destroying the world. It's not just in the U.S. The media is our enemy. Right now, I would guess today, this is a Saturday, there are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people marching in the streets in France, Switzerland, Germany, even Australia, where they face getting beaten up. Turn on the media, and what do you see? Nothing. Get your shot. That's all you see. You don't see any of it. We try to show a little bit of it on the Liberty Report, half expecting to be shut down any day for doing it. Hundreds of thousands. How can the media ignore millions of people marching saying, we don't want a green pass. We don't want you to force us to take something we don't want. So, conclusion now is the difficult part. There is no roadmap for us at this point. We are in uncharted territory. We have no allies among the mainstream organizations, even those that purport to stand up for civil liberties. All we have is a remnant of people who care and remember what America was. We are in great danger. The other side is not giving up. In fact, they're just getting started. So what do? I wish we had an answer. I don't know. It's up to you. It's up to us. Because this is a war on us. Thank you. We have some great allies, and the great allies are going to join us today. And one of the best allies we have is a great man named Gary Heavin, who is a true warrior for freedom and liberty. Gary?
Good morning. I am glad to be in a room with so many people that are intolerant of stupidity. My theology point was following Daniel. My gosh, what a great job! What truth and boldness that he spoke with. Daniel, I'm just in awe. You know, the first word of my notes here, the word is disclaimer. Okay, so I was going to say to you, I may be a board member of this organization and be allowed to speak here today, but my views are not necessarily the views of your organization, but I don't know that I need to give that disclaimer. My gosh. Daniel told it like it is. You know, I've only got a short period of time, so I'm going to kind of run through some things. And my goal today is really not to tell you what to think. You get that all the time. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we think, how we process information. Is that something anybody's interested in? You know, I titled this Finding Truth in a Time of Deception. And I think that certainly defines the times we're in right now. In all of my life, I've never seen deception at this level. You know, the Bible talks about a great deception would be so convincing that even the elite, remember that? It sure sounded like we're in that time, because we are being lied to by so many institutions and organizations, and they haven't objected. And I'm going to talk about that, and it's kind of neat. I can follow up on what Daniel had to say. So first of all, we as human beings have to process information. You know, it comes at us from all sorts of ways, our friends, the media, you name it. And it's, you know, looking at this information is kind of looking through a microscope at evidence. And your microscope has to be focused properly to clearly see the evidence. Would you agree with me on that? And you know, and we focus our microscope through our perspective, our worldview, our paradigm, and a lot of times those things are skewed. Daniel mentioned, for example, the right-left paradigm. okay? You know, there's no difference between the right and the left. It's a false paradigm, and it's designed to get you to adjust your microscope incorrectly so you can't see the evidence in front of you. And how many of you are frustrated with the volume of evidence that there's some really bad people out there that have targeted you, they've targeted your freedom, your resources, by the way, your freedom, and your children, okay? Well, I want to talk about this today, and I hopefully, you know, you guys are open for this, because, you know, we're not supposed to talk about this at the dinner table. We're not supposed to talk about this in polite company. In fact, when you talk to your friends about, you know, the man behind the curtain, you kind of do it in a whisper. Well, I want to tell you, I'm shouting about it. Okay? It's time that we identify the enemy. And the same thing in our works. If you know your enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the outcome of 100 battles. Okay? Well, we got to know our enemy, and we have to talk about the enemy in polite company. But first, it begins by fine-tuning our microscopes so that we can look at the evidence all around us, so that we can come to a rational conclusion with actionable results. Doesn't that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so there are human factors that serve as an impediment to being able to see evidence clearly. One of them is called the normalcy bias. You know, we have this mechanism, the psychological mechanism as people, that we tend to agree with things that we've kind of decided on. And we're actually able to deny evidence that is threatening to what we've decided was reality. It's called normalcy bias. And it's so powerful that the greater the threat to your beliefs, the more creative you get in denying reality. Now, that doesn't sound like a very effective way to live, does it? And you know, and we're all guilty of it. So you have to recognize your impediment with your normalcy bias and how it's hard to look at evidence sometimes and see the truth so that you can come to a rational conclusion with actionable results. Another bias we have is confirmation bias. You know, we really, you know, we recognize things that we agree with and we accept them pretty readily. But when something comes along that's outside of the group think, right, we tend to kind of push it away and not recognize it because it's uncomfortable. Let me tell you what, guys, if you think that's uncomfortable with what's coming, okay, you know, one of the reasons I was successful in business is that I got comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I was able to meet the challenges and do the things. So I'm going to invite you to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. But this confirmation bias is, it's manifested itself in an amazing way. You know, I love the health, you know, the doctors in this country and what they've done. You're my age, they probably saved your life once or twice, right? But we're in a moment in time where the vast majority of these wonderful medical doctors are complying. And part of it is confirmation bias. You know, people would rather be wrong than different. And so all of these doctors are denying the obvious, that there are effective, affordable, safe therapies for COVID. You know, they're allowing the hospitals to be dictated a protocol for care by the NIH and the CDC that is literally killing patients. And if you go to the hospital and you're not ready for a vent, they pretty much send you home and tell you to stay there until your lips turn blue. And the vast majority of medical doctors in this country are complying. Isn't that just astounding? Now, thankfully, there are heroes out there. And imagine, I would call a doctor who dared to comply with their Hippocratic oath and actually treat people a hero. Man, we live in some crazy times, don't we? And then we have a bias because we have faith in institutions. You know, we're supposed to trust the medical establishment in America. We're supposed to trust the court system or the FBI. Okay, guys, how many of you have faith in the institutions of the FBI anymore? Anybody here? Okay. Look at January 6th and what they're doing to these people who were invited in by the Capitol Police. And some of these poor souls for trespassing have been held for all of these months in isolation. Okay? This is like America with a K. Okay, that's a wonderful FBI. Look what they did to Trump and Russiagate and all this stuff, and what they didn't do to Hillary. The criminal. I do a lot of work in Haiti as a philanthropist, and I'm going to tell you, Hillary is a thieving monster who feeds on the back of little children. And that's not a wonderful thing. And her husband, Bill Clinton, he went on the Lolita Express 26 times to that island to do what? Okay, well, we know, and they're walking about free. Okay, how many of you have faith in the Justice Department? How about that wonderful institution? Okay, so the CDC, and the CDC, by the way, is not really a government; it's a quasi-government organization that's really a revolving door for pharmaceutical executives to come in and guard the hen house. And we're seeing the evidence of that. So if you're being told that the CDC said this, and you're supposed to follow it, even though it doesn't make any sense, process that. Analyze the evidence. These are a bunch of crooks, and they don't have your best intentions. Okay, guys, I didn't get to make $1 billion in my life because I'm a glass half empty guy. You understand that? Okay, but man, this we're in trouble. Okay, and I hate to be negative, but as Daniel said, there's not a lot of solutions. We've got a couple of really bad years ahead of us, and your job is to get off the railroad tracks, because there's a freight train coming. And secondly, your job is to get as many people as you know off those tracks. And third, as a Christian, is to tell as many people about Jesus as you can, because ultimately, if we don't tie in to the ultimate spirit in this world, we're not going to have the power and the protection and other things that we need. Okay, I have so much to talk about here that and so little time to talk about it. Let me throw one more thing at you, Daniel. Am I okay? Okay. Have you ever wondered how in Russia the Bolsheviks managed to get enough power to kill 10 or 12 million, mostly Christian Russians? Okay, pretty interesting, isn't it? You ever wondered how Stalin killed 10 million Ukrainians and starved them to death through the Holodomor? You ever wondered how Chairman Mao got the kids in China to turn on their professors and teachers and parents and kill tens of millions of them? But by the way, this stuff is real, guys. Human nature has that degree of capability. One more bias and hear me out on this bias, it's Christianity. Because as Christians, it's really hard for us to understand the degree of evil. We can't wrap our heads around it. But we got to do that. We have to understand that the same people, the Bolsheviks that came for the Russians, the Stalinists that went for the Ukrainians, the Maoists who went for the Chinese, these Marxists, these globalists, these people that are billionaires who think they're God. By the way, my old friend Zig Ziglar used to say, look, I don't know much about God, but I know this. I ain't him, and you ain't either. So when Bill Gates, decides that the population of the world needs to be right-sized to what they call sustainable levels, guys, that ain't a conspiracy theory. Okay? You have billionaires that have funded the vaccine who profit from it. Bill Gates said he's going to make 20 times his investment on vaccines. It's the best thing he's ever done. And he also said maybe it'll reduce the population. Okay, guys, we got to talk about this stuff. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable about this. it's actually a psyop that prevents you from talking about this in public. And you may say, well, why am I doing it? Okay? Well, I'll tell you a little secret, okay? I don't have a job. Now think about it for a minute. Many of you have jobs, you know, in the public arena or whatever, and they can fire you, right? Okay? They can't fire me. Okay? Also, I am independently wealthy, and I can afford the best attorneys in this country. Okay? And you may not have the ability to do that. And the other thing is that I actually don't care about being ridiculed. And in fact, I kind of like being ridiculed. Because that means I'm over the target. Yeah. So anyway, if somebody like me ain't speaking up, who's going to do it? So you know, those of you that can speak up with your children, your family, your neighbors, do what you can. We've got, you know, the only way that these evil people can continue to take ground is if they are allowed to do it in the darkness. And we all have a voice. We all have the ability to shine the light in that darkness. And if you don't think you have the power, well, if you're a child of the King, you know, if you are saved through the blood of Jesus, you have he who is in you is greater than he in this world, and you need to recognize that. Don't let the enemy lie to you and tell you, you know, they say that Satan's greatest tool was that he convinced people that he didn't exist. Well, I don't think so. I think his greatest achievement was he convinced so many of us that we don't matter. Well, I'm going to tell you here today that you have power and ability beyond anything you ever dreamed of. And these bastards are coming after us. You know, it's not just they're trying to, you know, they created the COVID, right? We know that. And thank goodness Rand Paul is putting Fauci in the hot seat. So they made it. They didn't actually get released. You know, they put it out there, and then they followed it up with a vaccine that I believe is the real kill shot. Okay? Yes. You know, the globalists have three goals. Okay? One is to transfer the wealth from all of you to them. And boy, they've accomplished that. 18% of the small businesses in America closed during this event, right? Number two, they want to separate you from your freedoms. They want to control you. They want you to stay home. They want you to close your... You got the picture. That's where we're headed with this. But number three, and this is a tough one, guys, they want to reduce the population. Okay? And if you can... That's a tough one, I agree. But they want to kill you. And they want to kill your children. And they're coming after your children with a vaccine right now. It's completely unnecessary, completely untested, that may kill them and may sterilize them. And what are we doing? Okay? I'll tell you what I'm doing, by God. I'm standing up and I'm saying, no more. Let me close with this, okay? You may be thinking that you're not ready for this war. But ladies and gentlemen, war is upon us.
Yes. It's already here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary, for that speech. I felt like I was in a revival tent.